All right, hello and welcome to the Rabyd Atheist. I'm your host, Ed Raby, a former pastor turned atheist, now a compassionate anti-theist. All right, today is kind of a special moment. I started this channel. I started the channel on January the 6th of 2020, couple months before COVID broke out. And then it's hard to imagine that, isn't it? Because like the COVID wasn't even in the vocabulary. Okay, so I just find that amazing that there was once upon a time where I did not know the word COVID. Okay, that it just wasn't part of my vocabulary. It just wasn't there. But I started it then. I set up the channel on the 6th and I dropped my first video on the 13th. So I suppose today is as good a day as to celebrate the fact that pre and post COVID. Yeah, that's my problem. Just a few acknowledgments. I want to thank the mighty Philbert once again for becoming a member. I think he did that the last live stream, but I want to say it again. And yes, I started the channel pre-COVID, before we even said COVID. So that was a long time ago. It seems like forever ago. And so I thought it'd be fun to do a live and blind reaction. Like I've never watched this video before. And of course, whenever you do something blind, you want to make sure it's going to have somebody that maybe people will be aware of who it is. And based on track record, I know that I know what they're going to go after. So, and then I saw this video, 5 Questions for Atheists in 2025. And I said, that would be perfect. And then, of course, all my favorite reactors are reacting to it this last week and a half. And it's like, and I'm sitting here trying to not watch their videos so I don't get any spoilers. I'm sitting here trying to, avoid this video as much as possible. Let's see. TMM did react. I also saw Professor Plink did one. There was several others that are reacting to this video. So as a way of celebrating my 5 years of the Rabyd Atheist channel, we're going to do a live blind reaction to Braxton Hunter, at least blind for me. Yeah. So there's an element. I don't know what Braxton's 5 questions are. I don't know what way he's going to do them. I know that he did his 10 questions for atheists a few years ago. I'd agree with that because I reacted to both of his 10 question videos. He did one in 2020 and he did another one in 2021. And both times I'm like, did you even bother to listen to the last ones? It's like, he asks questions. I think in the one he says like, I'm not doing gotcha questions. I'm not going to do that. But he ended up in that first one doing a couple gotcha questions. So it was like, you kind of lied there too. So, but I don't know. We're going to see what happens here.
I had 10 questions.
Okay. I'm going to add him to the stage. I don't know why it always auto starts, but we're going to live react to Braxton Hunter. I'm doing this blind. I have not listened to his questions, so I guess we'll find out as we go, and I'll stop it where I feel it's appropriate. This should be fun. So here we go.
In 2020, I had 10 questions for atheists, and the response was pretty big. I put my reaction to the videos that atheists made in response to it into a playlist on this channel that you can check out, and I still get answers to those questions to this day.
All right. Yep. Did all that. I responded to those. I responded to his responses, I think, somewhere on my channel. So I guess we'll see where he goes this time, but I'm very, very curious as to what questions he's going to ask. And I noticed in a lot of his responses, he didn't seem to actually learn anything. So we'll have to see what he does here. But here, let's see where he's going to go.
But now, as 2025 is upon us, I've got 5 questions for atheists in 2025, given certain events and current debates in the worldview discussion arena. If you're an atheist, I want to know what your answer is to these questions. So let's just jump right in.
All right. Okay. I'm an atheist, and I guess he's soliciting my responses to these questions based on current world events, which is a little suspect to me. I mean, I don't know exactly where he's going with that. Hey, Errol, good to see you. Welcome to the party, as much as it is. And we got Bren, good to see you. I guess we're going to find out where he goes with all this. I'm very interested into seeing what questions he has to ask this time. So let's fire away.
Question 1. Cameron Bertuzzi over at Capturing Christianity recently caused a lot of controversy by saying he no longer takes atheism seriously.
The reason why I don't take atheism seriously any longer is because even if we accept the atheist's strongest argument, it still wouldn't prove atheism.
We have these really powerful...
Okay, I got to deal with Cameron first. Talk about not understanding atheism. Okay, because here's my problem already. I can tell that they're working with their definition of what atheism is. So the one thing that all the reactions did not do was get them to accept that atheism is not as they defined it. Okay, they're still driving, it's like atheism is what they all have about every other God except their own. Okay, that's what they have. They have this, understanding that all these other gods don't exist, and they just can't fathom, and they don't believe in any of them, but they can't fathom how somebody can't believe in God at all without that. So I'm not really sure what he's getting at, but atheism by default is simply a lack of belief in God. Okay. And the problem I have with it, and Frank Turek and many others start this, is that atheism is a worldview. And I have argued repeatedly that atheism is not a worldview. It cannot be a worldview. It only addresses one question, with whether there is a God or not. Okay. That's pretty much it. Now, a lot of people attach things to atheists, mostly theists, that have nothing to do with atheism. So already, he's like, I'm not going to take atheism seriously because it can't prove the non-existence of God. That's kind of what a presuppositionalist kind of argument, because now you're just basically accepting by default that something, that something is true. Okay. And so is that really for your benefit or mine? I think really what Cameron is doing there is he's just accepting something for his own personal benefit, where he's saying, I'm just not going to take it seriously. I'm just going to presup my views on God. And that's really to his emotional benefit, because then he doesn't have to listen to what the atheists are saying. He can just dismiss them. So the fact that Cameron is just doing that, and I hadn't seen that part actually before, so that's another blind one. It's sorry, once again, you've defined what atheism is for yourself, and you have not bothered to hear it from the atheists. Okay, you already have your presuppositions about what atheism is, what God belief is, and it's really hard to have a conversation with people that have that. So yeah, you don't believe in God. The other, yeah, exactly. They add a whole bunch of stuff to what atheism is. I mean, the thing about Braxton, the thing about Cameron is they're all atheists when it comes to every other God in existence that's been claimed to exist except their own. Okay. And that's the one thing that they just won't accept. So, well, let's get to Braxton's actual question. I hope that he has a different question than what Cameron was indicating.
Powerful arguments, at least from our perspective, on the theist side, like arguments from fine tuning. But yes, there are.
Fine tuning isn't a powerful argument. It's been demonstrated. Even some creationists are now backing off of it. So I don't know what you're talking about, actually. So
arguments on the other side that are meant to show that it's unlikely God exists or that God does not exist, like arguments from evil or divine hiddenness arguments. And so
except good philosophers say that the divine hiddenness argument and the problem of evil argument are some of the strongest arguments against the existence of God. So when you look at people who actually know philosophy and deal with it on a day-to-day, yeah, those are very powerful arguments. Now, maybe you don't accept them and you don't find them convincing, but that's the same methodology for which I don't accept all the arguments for the existence of God, because fine-tuning, is an assumption. It really is an assumption. There's a lot of assumptions in most of the arguments for the existence of God. It's why when I was a theist and I was in Bible college taking apologetics class, and after we got done with all those philosophical arguments for the existence of God, I kind of confronted the professor of apologetics on it, saying, you do realize that from a logical point of view, a lot of these are fallacious. In fact, at the time, I kind of concluded, even back when I was in my 20s and still a theist, that all of those arguments were just very, very flawed. It's why I went out and tried to find my own. Okay. It was why I was, so that was my motive for becoming an apologist, was more heading the direction of these arguments are crap. Okay. So is there better ones? Can we come up with better ones? So, hey, Native, good to see you. But yeah, I don't know where they're going here, but okay, let's see.
This puts us in an interesting spot. We've got arguments for and against. But as Philip Goff suggested recently, perhaps you have a God of limited power. This would mean you have really powerful arguments from God on the theist side, like the fine-tuning arguments. But then the arguments from evil and divine hiddenness no longer become powerful arguments for atheism. Instead, what they are arguments for a limited God, but not arguments for no God. And so there's no reason to take atheism seriously, someone might decide. So the question is Cameron wrong? And if so, why is he wrong?
He's wrong because he misunderstands what atheism is and doesn't realize that he himself is an atheist for probably well over 4,000 gods that he does not believe exists. It's a question of not belief. The problem with Cameron, and the reason he's wrong, is he's added so much to atheism. He's created this atheistic worldview that really doesn't exist. Okay. If somebody comes up to you and says they don't believe in Odin, okay, they're an Odin atheist. Okay. Just because I say I don't believe in, I think there's really good logical arguments against the all powerful omni-God, because of the logical inconsistency. So what Braxton here has proposed is, well, maybe God isn't all that powerful. That's an open theist argument. Okay. The open theist, when I was an open theist, the arguments were, well, if we take the biblical definition of power, if we take the biblical definition of knowledge, then God isn't all knowing and he isn't all powerful, and that escapes all the omni stuff. But the reason Cameron is wrong is because he's created the straw man of atheism, and he's beat it up so much. He now thinks that all atheism should just be dismissed because he keeps beating up his straw man of what atheism is. Atheism is simply the lack of belief in a God. Okay, you can be a strong atheist, you can be an agnostic atheist, you can be an agnostic atheist, all of that stuff. Okay, you can be all those things. Okay, so it's the real problem I have with your question is you're assuming, like Cameron, that your definition of what atheism is true. It's not a worldview. Okay. it only addresses the question of belief. Okay, it's like, I don't believe in God. It's like, I have my problems with agnostics. Okay, and I always ask them flat out, well, what God do you have an active belief in? And well, I don't have any active belief in any God. I'm like, well, then you're a freaking atheist. Okay, quit. I think a lot of it is just running from terms, so there's that. Hey, welcome, Evan. You can be late. We're in a celebratory mood, so being fashionably late. I mean, I Killed Earl was fashionably late, as always, too, so just slightly. So it's all good. But the reason Cameron's wrong is he misunderstands atheism, as always. He's always misunderstood atheism. And he should really reconsider whether atheism can even be a worldview philosophically, because I don't think it can. There's just a lot of stuff that doesn't compute with what I understand a worldview to be, because worldviews have a lot more things to them than just the question of whether God exists or not. Now, that can color and kind of influence your thoughts on other things that are in a worldview, but it can't be a worldview by itself. And that's what Cameron doesn't understand, and that's why you don't understand. Now, but on a more emotional level, so you're basically saying you're going to be a presuppositionalist apologetics person and dismiss everything we say because you get. I love how all this is trending these days. Everybody is trending towards precept. Has anybody else noticed this with all the apologists? They're all attacking atheism. You got to prove your non-belief in God. I'm like, well, that still doesn't prove your God exists in particular. So it's like, let's say atheism is proved to be false, that somehow somebody proves some sort of divine being exists. You still have all your work ahead of you proving that yours does. Okay, because there's like 5,000 contenders for that honor of the God that actually exists, and they might all be wrong. So, okay, including yours. So it's like, we're moving away because we have the challenge from 1 Peter to give an answer for the reason for the hope that is within us, and we want to run away from that commandment. That's a commandment of the scriptures, by the way, and you keep running away from it. So I don't know. The first question isn't going off too well because basically they're just looking for excuses of why they don't have to deal with the arguments against the existence of God, or don't think that there's all that. So there's that. Huh. All right. Let's go on. Question number 2 here. Let's go see what he's got.
Question 2. Some atheist creators seem to think that the recent presidential election was so important that it changes the way they should do things on their channels. Watch.
I am going to be...
Whoa. Prophet of Zod? Really? Oh, this is going to be fun. Is this the video where he says he's moving to a different channel? This will be fun. Let's see if Braxton misrepresents what Zod did, because I watched all of Zod's video. That ought to be interesting.
Changing things up on YouTube quite a bit, to the extent that I'm not going to be doing this channel anymore. So I don't think the timing is lost on anybody here, that this is happening, shortly after the last political election. I'm not going to lie, very, very distraught and a little freaked out by the results. Not just who won, but the extent by which they won. And that does get us all thinking about our future and our safety and what things are going to look like going forward. Basically, what that did is that just jolted me. For a while, I just kind of been on the treadmill doing what I was doing. I wanted to get off at some point and doing something different. And so this election and the little jolt that it gave me just kind of pushed me off the algorithm treadmill and gave me the prompt to just do something a little different.
I am shifting gears a little bit here and widening the lens, so to speak. And I want to talk about it because I've changed my mind since my last video. I posted a kind of off the cuff video of my thoughts and feelings post-election. And I said that the political conversation, I didn't want it to set the tone for future videos. And I didn't want to get into politics. And I wanted to stay focused on what I was doing. But I changed my mind.
Why do you think that this election was so impactful to atheists in this way? What did it reveal about the culture? Question 3.
Okay, freeze right there. Holy shit. Okay. I watched all the Prophet of Zod's video, and who's the young lady's name? What is her name? Oh, I know this, but I'm losing it right now. But both of those responses were in a larger context of making a personal choice about shifting gears away from what they had been doing. And both of them made mention that they were already thinking about going that way beforehand. This is really edited. Both of those videos have been heavily edited. Yeah, it's Christy. That's right. It's Christy Burke. It's Christy Burke. Okay. But she openly says in her video that the whole deconversion, there was a lot of, I want to move on with my life. Okay. And I feel like Prophet Azad said that for the most part too, is like, both of them were like, I'm moving on. Now, Prophet Azad and I have had an internet conversation. I've mentioned him several times. He's mentioned me. He even put one of my videos up on one of his and recommended that people come to the channel. So a real class act in my opinion. We have very similar backgrounds, and I absolutely get his desire to move on. And it may have had nothing to do with the damn election. Okay. And Christy Burke, I watched a couple of her videos, and her whole thing was she wanted to move on and stop talking about what she's getting out of so much and what she's moving into. And I think both of those people had very personal reasons. And you mentioned the Trump election, but I wanted to let you know something else. So you have those two YouTubers who you say are leading. Well, what about the rest of us? Okay, I'm still here. I'm still going to talk about Trump, and I don't give a damn. Okay. I can think of, the NAM network, his morning show. He's doing stuff every flipping day about politics and Trump. Okay. If you're trying to insinuate that we're leaving it because, apparently it doesn't work that well. Yeah. I mean, Bren's got it right. They were going to leave anyway. And it was just like, okay, this is kind of the last domino, time to go do something else. Yeah, it also doesn't change the thing about the truth of atheism. Martin is very, very right there. It's like, who cares? What the hell? Who gives a damn? Okay. It's like, I've lived through Trump already for 4 years. Okay. I've already done that. Okay. So I'm fairly certain that if I don't get hit by a bus or a meteor doesn't come out of space or something, I'm going to be around for another 4 years. And, I don't think that has any bearing on what I do on my channel most of the time. I was taking on Christian nationalists even when Biden was president because they were always still around. I don't think that the election had any significance on these people's decision-making process. And the fact that you're throwing them out there, Braxton, without the context of the rest of what they said. I mean, I hope you put their whole video in the description, because if you watch their whole videos, they had a lot of reasons that they were already contemplating before they left and moved on to different channels and different work. Once again, yeah, YouTube is a hard place to be yourself in. It really is. I really make a commitment to be myself, and sometimes it's hard. Yeah. For I Killed Earl, yeah, it's the only place that she really can be herself in. And I feel sometimes that's, I don't know, there's a part of me that's autistic that sits back in the corner and waits for other crap to happen. But when I get on YouTube, there's another side of me that comes out that is truly myself. So I get that. I don't know. It depends on what they're able to do. I mean, the real problem right now, as I watch the Republicans, is because they have all the power. It happens every time either party has all the power. The factions within that party come out trying to push their particular agendas. And that's exactly what's happening. It's fracturing Trump's supposed coalition. It's kind of funny that that's happened, but kind of hilarious. But yeah, so I don't know. He's asking a question which I think has no bearing on the two people he brought out there, because I watched the full videos of both of those. And the impression that I got was they were already considering moving on and doing something different. The election just kind of was the final domino. So that's probably it for those two. But what are you talking about, Braxton? I'm still here. There's a ton of us new atheists out here. I think I've seen at least 3 or 4 new atheist channels that are coming out because of Trump's election. I don't see too many people leaving the game, if that's what you're insinuating, that somehow this was the final straw and we all are giving up. That's a load of shit. Okay. I don't know. I don't know where you're getting that, man. Yeah. So there's that. I don't know. Yeah, I have to be a different person at work. I'm a different person when I'm home by myself, of course, my family. I don't know, but to me, those are all facets of who I am. I'm not a one-dimensional person. So, but yeah, I have to, on YouTube, I do mask my emotions really hard, but I don't get into all the rest of the stuff. But there's another part of me that really comes out, like the expressive part. I feel like, me and Freddie Mercury had the same thing. We're introverts. We're back in the corner until you put us on a stage, and we're quite different. So that's kind of the way it is. Hey, yeah, so good to see you. I saw you, but I'm being delayed because this guy who I'm reacting to is kind of, 2 questions in, and we've already misidentified atheism and already misidentifying why people are changing channels. So here we go. So question number 3, let's see what we got.
Many atheists are determinists, meaning that they don't believe in free will, at least not of the sort that many people think of when they hear the term free will. They believe that the past history of the universe is like to a billion trains of dominoes or trillions of chains of dominoes that result in the past history of the cosmos, the formation of your physical body, your past life experiences, your neural structure, and the firings of neurons in your brain that are your choices, but could not have been otherwise. On the other hand, maybe some atheists think that we have what's called libertarian freedom, the notion that whatever you ended up choosing, you really could have done otherwise. So here's my question. If you're a determinist, how do we hold people morally culpable for things they do that could not have been otherwise, given the history of the universe?
Whoa, back up. Okay. So we jump from determinism to morality. Okay, well, first of all, I think the assumption that most atheists are hard determinists, even if that's true, I don't know what specifics would lead to whatever is going on. How do I argue for good morality? I don't know. Human empathy, reason, the list is long of the tools I use for morality. And truth be told, most theists use those same tools. Okay. They do them. They just add God in there. So yeah. Okay. All right. I'm going to interrupt this for a minute. Yeah. We're good. Yeah. Yeah. It has to be a staged performance. I think that's why the preaching works so well for me, because same thing. So yeah, that's kind of, yeah, a lot of us are 90% introvert. That's kind of the way I am. Yeah. Wants to live forever. Great song. Definitely. So there's that. But my problem with you, the question is, there are a lot of atheists who are not hard determinists. Okay. I get the scientific, like if we could know all the physical chemical reactions that take place at every given moment, we would know and be able to determine what's going on. I just don't know if we ever had the tools even with AI and everything, to predict everything as that's going. I don't understand how hard determinism doesn't lead into a moral discussion, because wouldn't it then be hard to determine that morality and what morality is as a discussion would exist? Okay, that is going to happen. I mean, what would be the basis for that? I don't know. I, as somebody who's not a hard determinist, I'm more of a soft determinist. And I hate to say this, but I do agree with some as saying that on the quantum level, things seem to be a little bit weird down there and not determinist at all. But I don't understand how being a determinist gets rid of the moral discussion. I get why they're saying it, because they think if there's no free will, there's no actual genuine choice, what's the point of morality? Well, the point of morality, even in a hard determinist viewpoint, would be we're pushing towards whatever the reaction is, trying to get us into a better moral state. I mean, I always find this question a little bit ironic, because, and maybe it's why Calvinism has fallen out of vogue so much with some Christians, at least some of the ones because Calvinism is hard deterministic too. And I used to ask that question of Calvinists as well. So this is not an atheist question. I mean, the fact that I'm now hearing Jim Bob's argument that I dealt with on hard determinism coming out of the mouth of Braxton Hunter is very telling to me of how presuppositionalism is sweeping the apologetics world, because they just want to hand wave the objections of atheists away. And it shows that they're losing, because if you have to run to your presuppositions all the time, that they're what's right, then you haven't proven a damn thing. Okay, all you've proven, to be blunt, is that you are willing to be a coward and run away from a lot of the discussions that atheists have, and you're going to pull out hard determinism to do that. You're going to pull out morality to do that, and you're just going to shove it back in my face. I don't know. I don't know what to say to you other than not every atheist is a hard determinist. So this is more of an argument against hard determinism, which exists in both camps. It exists in some atheists who have this very hard deterministic view of how physics, chemistry, and all that stuff is good. It also exists in theists who believe that if there's one maverick molecule in the universe that isn't under God's control, then he's not God. I'm sorry, this argument against morality doesn't, it's an argument against hard determinism. It's not an argument against me as an atheist or anybody as a theist. So I don't know. I get that there's a lot of determination. I mean, that's why I'm a soft determinist, because I now can accept that there's a lot of things outside of my control. And so I do focus on my own decisions and what I can be controlled. But even in that context, morality, how I treat others, is still a very valid discussion. Okay. I don't, even under soft determinism, I have a very valid reason to follow after different virtues, things like that, because I don't know. And I want things to go well for myself. Okay. So I don't know. I don't get the question and how it has anything to do with atheism. First of all, I said that when I reacted to Jim Bob's video, and I'm going to say that now. What the hell does that have to do with the claim that you have that there is a God? What is your evidence for that claim? And now it seems that you apologists are running from that question. You're running so damn hard from that question that you're willing to, well, we're just going to dismiss atheism and presuppose our beliefs. Okay. I don't know. And see, yes, because here's another thing that I Killed Earl points out. There are some atheists that I don't think are determinists, because they think it's part of religious thinking. It's a way of thinking about the universe that comes from religion. And I have to say that that's very valid. Okay, it's very valid. And that comes from, where does that come from? Calvinism, hard Calvinism. if you want to know the origins of how scientists got to that hard deterministic thinking, I would find a Calvinist behind that shit. Okay, so I don't know, Braxton. I think this is an irrelevant question to atheists because both sides have hard determinism. I don't get the question. Okay, my issue is it. My whole thing now is how popular presuppositionalism apologetics has become, because when you look at Plantinga, what he's saying is there are basic beliefs that we all have, and therefore God is a legitimate basic belief. That's his basic argument. I read him. Okay, I read his whole damn book, and he uses a whole bunch of things to prove that. We still believe that our houses are there even when we're at work, but it's like I have evidence every day that my house is there because I run into it unless something happens. That I believe that other persons exist. Okay, do I have evidence for that? Well, yeah, I have more evidence for the existence of other persons than the existence of God. Okay. And so I am just fascinated by how that argument, I get to presuppose my faith until you prove me wrong, has just been so much crap. Okay, I do not understand how that works. Okay, because I'm flabbergasted. So I don't know. I mean, this is just, it's annoying to me because I don't think that this question is even legit. Okay, so yeah, let's see here. There is a connection between some atheists, but I'm not one. I Killed Earl obviously isn't a determinist of any kind. That maybe we need to think about it differently. That's a thing. The thing is, once again, this is the assumption that atheism is a worldview, and then hard determinism is wrapped up in that, and that's just not the case. So I don't know. I do not understand this mindset that says, what's the point of morality if everything's hard to determine? I don't know. Ask a Calvinist. I used to ask him that a lot. There's plenty of Christians that believe in hard determinism. So why aren't you talking to them about this question? Okay, you're going to presuppose hard determinism with them? Is that something that you can presuppose? I don't think so. I don't presuppose that whether something's determined or not is part of the moral discussion. The moral discussion is, how are we supposed to behave towards one another, and what's the basis for that behavior? Okay, how do we get the most good out of the life we have is a very good, reasonable question. I just don't get this one. Yeah, I think that could be the case. Yeah, I just don't. They're trying to say because free will doesn't exist, then what's the basis for morality? I get that, but I would say that that's a very limited thinking about what morality is. Then, if morality is determined, then what is it determined to be is still a very good question, and you're still going to have a lot of questions in that room. Okay, I'll allow that because I'm in a celebratory mood because it's the 5th anniversary of my channel. Okay, I am going to let that go. So, yeah, I know you were. But yeah, I'm going to let this go because I felt it was funny back then, and it's still funny. So, but welcome, Missing Mod. So it's like, I don't get the question anymore. I really don't. So there's that aspect of it. Some don't say that. Okay. Sorry, Joe Friday, but and welcome, but not all atheists say that. So that's a misnomer. That's a atheist that apologists have created, but I certainly don't hold that. I don't know about free will, but I do talk about I do talk about choices. So, well, let's get on back to Mr. Hunter here. I want to finish this video and then we'll see what happens. But that was question 3. What is it? How determinists have to do with morality? I don't know if maybe he's still continuing on that. We'll see if he says something else.
And if it is the case that you believe in free will of the libertarian sort as an atheist, how is that possible without God? Now,
how is it possible without God? That would be that human beings. Why do you have to have? My question back to you is, why do you have to have God in there? Okay, let's say I still I'm an atheist and believe in libertarian free will. Then morality becomes even more important, I suppose, in a certain sense, because if I'm going to exercise my choices, I still want them to be moral. I still want them to be beneficial to my self-interest. Which almost every moral system starts with self-interest and what's good for others. We have that universal secular ethic of do unto others that you should have done unto yourself, or don't do to others what you don't want to do to yourself. Reciprocity. All of these questions and basis has become the basis for a lot of questions. I don't get your question at this point, because if you're saying determinism is what removes the moral discussion, then a lack of determinism would automatically put it back in, wouldn't it? Okay. I mean, it's in your worldview, then you're automatically back to moral decisions if there is some sort of libertarian choice or free will in the discussion. Why wouldn't morality be a discussion whether there's a God or not? Okay. I mean, so I'm just, false. Just because we might be only chemicals, that doesn't mean that that's not a complex question. Sorry. Okay, so, no, I don't. Yes, Mr. Mott, I was absolutely entertained by that. If theists could be honest, they wouldn't be theists. That's a nice claim you got. You got any proof for that? There, I said it in opposite. Now what? You lose. Joe Friday, that's just a stupid way to argue. It's just a dumb way to argue. So, yeah, I mean, what do you do with Earl here? Free will, accept the concept of free will, but not a determinist. Okay, so I don't know. I don't know. The continued misrepresentation of atheists continues, apparently. So, and he's still doing, but Braxton's whole point here, isn't his whole point was, if it's all determined, then moral discussion wouldn't exist. Then he flips it. If you do believe in free will, what becomes the basis for that morality? Well, it's like he's basically created a question where nobody can win based on his assessment. So I don't know. I'm kind of done with that one. Let's see who says that.
As a note, there are many determinists who will say they are compatibilists. And what that means is not that libertarian freedom is compatible with determinism. Compatibilists hold that determinism is true. It's just that we can hold people morally culpable in spite of the determinism. That moral culpability is compatible with determinism. So
yes. And you know where I first heard that term? Calvinists. Theological God-believing Calvinists. I wonder if he's aware of that. I mean, maybe he is, and he's avoiding that discussion because he wants to focus on atheists. But atheists aren't the only ones that hold to deterministic viewpoints. Calvinists definitely do too. So, okay, so there's that. I don't know. We'll see. But yeah, I mean, I'm sorry. I first heard the term compatibilists in arguing in forums as an Arminian believer against Calvinism. And it was Calvinism that would bring up the idea of compatibilism, that determinism and moral culpability are not necessarily exclusive. And I would argue that that's probably not the case back then. Now, I'm not so sure. Okay, so it's the more you study morality and the more you look at the way the way things are, it becomes a very different discussion for me. I think I killed Earls on a good point there. Is we have a lot of conceptions that we have framed for us in a theistic viewpoint. So we'll see what happens here, but yeah, but he's talking about compatibilism, but I don't think that he realizes that some of the first places that people hear that term is when you're talking with Calvinists. So there's that.
Doesn't answer the question. I'm asking that question. How, if you're a determinist, how is it that people are morally culpable given that their choices could not have been otherwise? And
okay, well, then you should also ask the Calvinist believer that same question. Once again, this deterministic issue isn't an atheist thing. It's on both sides of the theist and atheist camp. If you have an all-powerful God who's also all-knowing, your life is determined. Okay, because the moment you give free will a chance in that system, God doesn't have all the power and he doesn't have all the knowledge. There's something he does not know. Okay. And that fits the biblical God. Okay. But once again, this is not an atheist problem. This is a problem of the determinist when they talk about compatibilism. And it's not just atheism that talks about this, it's Calvinists too. So
if you believe in free will, how is that possible without God?
Free will could be possible without God if there's a genuine biological mechanism that allows genuine choice. Okay, if scientists were to discover that we do indeed have genuine choices about things, then yeah, there would be a mechanism for that. But how does God fix that? Okay, in what way does God fix that? Because God, when you're dealing with God, you're dealing with divine command theory, okay, which means God dictates what morality is. And so you don't really have a moral discussion. You don't really have so I don't get where you're going with this, because the question seems to be invalid. You're trying to hit both sides and you're giving me a false dichotomy, and you're really not dealing with the issue of the fact that there could be, within a deterministic framework where there are certain things I don't have any control over, that's determined to me, the actions of others, the weather, all these things, what planet I'm on, there's certain things I just don't have the power to do. That's all deterministic. Okay. While at the same time, within that framework, I could still have genuine choices about my personal actions and attitudes. I'm giving you a lot of Stoic philosophy here, by the way, but it's like you don't realize, Braxton, that there's a middle ground here. And you also don't seem to realize that hard determinism is a problem of both camps. Okay. You just have literally stated the Arminian versus Calvinist debate, and you're throwing it on atheists. And it's like, do you apologists not have anything better than to do than take your old retreaded conversations between each other and then throw them on me? Okay. I'm sorry. I think determinism is a debatable point among the atheists. Okay. There's a lot of debate. See, this is this broad strokes, broad brush. This is what atheists are. They're either complete free willists, libertarian free willists, or they're complete, determinists. And it's like, there's a whole moral discussion and reality discussion in between there. Okay. Yeah. I think Fred kind of hit it here. I see free will as logically impossible. I could be wrong, but then that would be me being wrong based on my life experience and all that has gone on before. Okay. But yeah, what you're getting at there, Fred, is what I'm saying is, when I was an open theist, I pointed out to people how much stuff is really outside of your control anyway. Like, you have limitations. So genuine free will of being able to choose anything you want to do is just nonsense. Okay. You have the ability to choose things within a certain framework, and we can debate whether that's free will or choices or mechanistic, but it could be all over the place. There's a lot of gray area in this discussion, even with the science people, the hard determinist science people that are on atheist side and some on the theist side that, I've heard theists argue that this hard determinism we're discovering is proof that God is Calvinist. Okay, so there's that argument. It's a minority argument, but it's there. So there's that aspect of it. Okay, the question to me is just invalid towards atheists. That's a question for hard determinists or extreme free willists to answer. And the problem is both atheists and theists exist somewhere in between those two extremes anyway. So I don't know. That's not a question I would generally ask atheists. Yeah, there's something in between there, Evan. That's my belief too. Is like, I don't think scientists, when we get down to the quantum level and beyond, it gets really dicey as to what we know. Okay, so yeah, this is kind of what I kind of hold to. Humans have agency within the boundaries of the laws of the natural world. I think that's a little bit closer to what I'm saying. And I don't know, it's a better answer. I don't know, but Braxton doesn't seem to think that. I don't know if he'll. Yeah. And then there's the view of Michael Wolff. We have the illusion of free will, but that doesn't necessarily invalidate what I Killed Earl said, or I say, which is, you still have to make these decisions, even if it's hard deterministic. I still have to make these decisions in a great deal of ignorance of what the determined end is going to be, and so moral discussions still are there as part of that mechanism. So I don't know. That one was a weird one, but if we don't move on, we'll be here, for 4 hours. Who knows? All right. Number 4.
Richard Dawkins has long been praised by atheists as one of the 4 horsemen of the new atheism. But recently he's caused some controversy with some comments about the trans debate. For many atheists, he's right about science when it comes to young earth creationism versus evolution, but he's wrong when it comes to this current cultural debate. Do you personally think he's right or wrong, and why? Now,
oh boy. Okay. I like this said, this is a blind reaction. Okay. Let me frame the trans debate in the atheist camp as I understand it. I could be very wrong, but there are those atheists that are siding very much hard with biological numbers. They're looking at the biological proof, XX versus XY. They're looking at all this genetic stuff. They're looking at what many consider to be hard sciences. But at the same time, you have the other side that says, no, gender is a social construct. And so we have the other side of atheist camp that is more of the social construct is what gender is. Yes. And what there is also, and this is, I'm really generalizing too, because there's a lot of nuance to this argument. When I was getting my political science degree, I took a class in social psych and several others, and we talked about the gender issue. And the problem is that gender is one of those things that we always thought was so hard to find, but it's not really in the way that we use it in human language. And trans has been around forever. Okay. There are historical documents of people that, had trans mentality, if you will. I'm really at a loss for words. I hope I'm not trying to offend anybody or anything. I'm just trying to deal with this issue. But there are those on the side. It recently came out with FFRF. They were going to have this forum-like debate, and then it blew up, and Matt Dillahunty reacted to it, and Richard Dawkins resigned his, and the guy who presented the paper that was anti-trans presented the paper back and forth and all this stuff. And so there were like 3 honorary members of FFRF that resigned because of this incident. And Matt Dillahunty came out and said that their apology wasn't really an apology. And my pushback against Matt would be, FFRF is a bunch of lawyers and they're worried about getting sued. Okay. To the nth degree because of that. And so what they did is what I would expect an institution with a bunch of lawyers in it to do. They gave a general bland disclaimer, and then they had this back and forth. And then the other guy wanted to post his paper as an honorary member of FFRF and of the board, the executive board. And, he's going purely from a biological gender. And he also, I think, when you look at Dawkins's view, I think it's shaped by his understanding of biology and genetics. And it's shaped by his understanding of what a delusion is, because he did write The God Delusion, and he did a lot of study of what he thinks delusion is. And I think him and Rationality Rules were right on one thing. And I agree with Rationality Rules that the argument that I just feel like I'm the other sex is a bad argument, because a lot of theists come to me and make the argument, I feel like I'm a child of God. I feel there has to be more than that. And I think also one of the things that would be nice for me who supports trans, I really wish there was some place where the proof that where the evidence is laid out for gender being a social construct was more in a cohesive place where it could all be assessed. So there is a debate in the atheist camp about this issue, which just goes to show you that maybe atheism isn't a worldview, because on certain issues we draw the line. Now, me, I don't give a damn. Okay, I fall on a very classical liberal libertarian point of view. If you think it would promote your happiness to become the other gender, and we have the medical ability to do it, or different ways of doing it, and that's what you want to do to be more authentically you, go for it. Who am I to stop you? Okay. So I don't know. I've gotten to the point on this debate where I see the claims on both sides, and I wish we could have like a couple of really good debates on this issue, because I think the truth would come out. But as far as Richard Dawkins goes, I have very mixed feelings about Mr. Dawkins. One, I still think he's a humanitarian. He's given a shit ton of money to humanitarian causes. He's helped a lot of people around the world. I'm a beneficiary of that because I went through the clergy project. It was his money that got that started. There's a whole bunch of things that he's done well. And then there's a whole bunch, and I would argue that a lot of us current atheists and even the younger generation of atheists that are out there because of the Four Horsemen's work. Okay, now we have to realize that, two horsemen are dead. Okay, Christopher Hitchens is gone. Dennett is gone. So we're left with Harris and Dawkins. And to be honest, of the Four Horsemen, I think those are the two that I had the most trouble with, even when I was first coming into atheism. I loved Dawkins for his genetic work. I loved him for the God Delusion. Don't love him so much for this hardcore stance and not being willing to listen to the social construct side, and maybe that gender is a little bit more complicated than XX and XY. I think, yeah, it's kind of bipolar. I agree with that. There's a funny side to that. Hey, Mighty Filbert. Yeah, he doesn't. It's very much like that, because the problem I have with this question number 4, and he's about to get into question number 5, is the assumption, okay, that Richard Dawkins is some sort of prophet or some sort of guru to a lot of us. The thing about atheists is, try to get atheists to agree on anything outside of their non-belief of God. Go ahead and try. Go into a room of atheists, like 50 atheists, and say, do you all agree on this? And I'm going to tell you right now, I would argue that it's not second wave. I think we're either third or fourth, because before the Four Horsemen, there were the predecessors, the guys that the Four Horsemen looked to. So it might be third wave, actually, Earl. It might be third wave at this point. But yeah, Dawkins and Harris and Hitchens and Dennett Dilbert, great men when it came to atheism. but I guess I'm nuanced in my evaluation of a person or not, that I can have a strong disagreement with somebody and still realize that 95% of what they did wasn't complete shit. Okay. That this one, issue that people have with Dawkins, I get it. I get the anger over it. I get the stuff about it, but I can't deny that the man did a lot of good too. And that's probably true of a lot of good people. Okay. There's some shit in everybody. Yeah. I mean, then you have Michael here. It's like those guys didn't have any influence on whether we became an atheist. I became an atheist in large part because I rejected all the other religions because I thought they were all ridiculous. But then when I started applying the same criteria to my own religion as I applied to them to consider them ridiculous, I got rid of, I'm like, well, I don't believe in anything. Okay. So, and then what happened is, I got all these questions. You get all these questions that roll in your head once you rule out God. Well, how do I do this? How do I do that? And a lot of those guys were very influential on leading me to different things to look at. Okay. So I don't know. Yeah, they weren't a cohesive group, but they were influential. I mean, some of them I think were flat out wrong, like Nietzsche. It's funny how every once in a while you'll get a theist on here. Well, if you follow atheism, you just get Nietzsche's, whatever. And I'm like, I don't give a damn what Nietzsche says. I think he was fucking wrong. Okay. But I think the only reason the Four Horsemen are seen as cohesive is because of the timing. If we'd had four other atheists with four different names that became popular, we would have got that term. But after 9/11, you saw all four of these guys who had already been talking their stuff long before that get very popular. But what I don't think Braxton understands here is most of us atheists don't give a damn what atheists just say. I don't follow them like they follow the Bible. I don't give a shit, for instance, sometimes with what Dawkins says about certain issues, because I make up my own mind. I think if there's one thing that atheism has taught me in handling atheists is atheists are very independently minded. Like I don't see it really is. If you try to get them to agree on anything and go for anything, it is like, I don't know how we can be a cohesive group, Earl. I really don't, because it's like herding cats. It really is. It is, pick the most difficult thing in the universe to get to line up. I mean, ducks in a row be damned. Atheists are one of the hardest groups of people to get any kind of unity on. It is not surprising to me that there's a major divide on trans issue among atheists, really. And I just don't see, where he's going with this. I mean, I don't care what Dawkins says about trans. I have my own views on it. I would love to see a place, somebody needs, and maybe it already exists, but the social construct issue is there, but you can't see. The problem is, I don't know. It's just, there's biology to it. There's social construct to it. There's social expectations, there's societal expectations. And there's just a whole, is there, but now you're in a different hive. I mean, don't get me wrong. I do think that the liberal side has a hive mind. Okay. If you're going to call yourself a liberal atheist, I'm not sure it's the atheist part that makes you the hive mind. Okay. It's something else. Yeah. I mean, I think there is a problem there. I mean, I'll address that right now too. I have a problem with two things that atheists do. And I see this more on the liberal side of atheism, probably because I'm more in contact with it. I dislike the fact that we use the term bigot so freely when we're dealing with somebody we disagree with, because bigot is name calling. It's an ad hominem attack, and it insinuates something about the character of the person. It's not dealing with their argument. I don't know. You were timed out. And I didn't do that, man, because my mods handle this stuff. You have to keep them appeased. Yeah, I mean, the social justice warrior mentality. I also reject because I think it's bad. I think it's a bad tactic for one. Because even if somebody has an anti-trans position like Dawkins, I would still have a conversation with him about it without hating him. Okay, I have a large problem from a political science view. I am so tired of putting phobia on the end of anything. I don't really give a damn what it is. Because the whole issue of calling something a phobia, for instance, is to insinuate something about them. It's insinuating something about their character and the reasoning that it's just an irrational fear. I don't know if every time I have an objection to something that I hold, what the objection is irrational. And just saying it is by putting the term phobic. I don't know. So there's that. I don't know. You'd have to ask the person who booted you, but I didn't do it. Basically, if you're making arguments, basically that are claims or insinuating something, usually they'll get rid of you. This is a deconverting channel for the most part. So don't bitch and be nice. Yeah. All right. So yeah, hey, drink water. Yeah, the problem with the phobia thing is it gets used too often. I don't think it even has the punch it used to. I think when it was originally used, it was designed to make a point that maybe a person had an irrational fear of things they didn't understand, like homosexuals. I think that's for the first time I ever heard it, but it's gone. It's the problem with throwing phobia on the end of anything anymore is you can literally make anything phobic. And it's always designed in a political science point of view to cast aspersions on the person. It's not actually dealing with their argument. Okay, it's why you don't hear me use terms like transphobic or homophobic or like that, because I don't think that actually deals with the person. I still have to respect the person as a human being. They may have a wrong view to me, but I expect there to be some conversation about that. So I'm just kind of done with the bigots, calling him bigot. I wouldn't call Dawkins a bigot, and I wouldn't call him transphobic. I think he has some biological reasons. He has some psychological reasons why he doesn't take the stance of supporting trans. Now, here's the funny part about Dawkins. He supports homosexuals. He supports a lot of the letter, we joke around it, the thing. So it's like, where is that? Where is that aspect? It's not a conversation when you're making accusations without evidence. You're not respecting conversation. Okay. I will gladly hear anything you have to say or look at anything in the chat as long as it's respectful. But when you say something like atheists are all determinists, they just have to face the reality of that. That's your opinion, man, not a statement of fact. And that's a statement that doesn't respect conversation either. So I'm pretty sure that's why somebody said, nope, done with that. And you weren't banned, you were timed out probably. So, yes, because, this is a good example because, the theists do the same thing. Okay. They'll call us words like communist, atheist, and all this other bullshit. And it's like, it's deliberately designed to be an ad hominem attack and to cast aspersions on the character of the atheist. We face this all the time. And then all of a sudden we flip it around and we do it to our opponents. How is that not hypocritical? Okay. I disagreed with it when I was a theist and okay. I want to get back to Braxton here, but I'll give you the short answer. To me, the once saved, always saved when I was a theist, the argument was bad because there are certain verses of scripture like, you'll not have your name blotted out of the name of life. Well, how do you get it blotted out if it wasn't there in the first place? Yes, that's the issue, isn't it, Earl? Okay, getting back to Braxton's video here. It's like you can't hold a different view and it's gotten really bad in the liberal atheist camp, and the Democrats are this way. They can't figure out why they lost. It's because you're up in your damn ivory tower and you got your head up your ass at the same time. And, all through the campaign is, well, Trump supporters are stupid. No, they're self-interested. There's a difference. Okay. And you're not dealing with their problems. So yes. Yeah. Earl got kicked out because she's a little bit of centrist. I know that that's why I don't get invited to certain programs, because I am a classic libertarian, which means my views on the economy and guns are probably a little bit different than most of those on the atheist left. So, yeah, possibly. Possibly. So, I mean, but if you have a different viewpoint than anybody else, you get ostracized. And I want to do this video, and maybe some of you can leave a comment. I want to do a video how atheists still act religious from an atheist perspective. From somebody who used to be in the religious field, I think there's a lot of things like shunning and kicking people out. And if you don't agree with the whole dogma, of this group or that group, then you get pushed away. How is that different than shunning in churches? How is that different? I don't see there's a difference. Michael Wolf, I get the joke. So, yeah. So it can be an extremist ideology, and that's why I'm against it. And what Braxton's getting at here is, and he's kind of stumbling into it because he doesn't really ask the right question, is why is there so much diversity in the atheist camp, is what he should really ask, instead of making reference to Dawkins and everybody else. I mean, Dawkins is a guy who happens to be an atheist. I agree with him on a lot of his scientific findings on genetics. I agree with him when it comes to religion and some other things. There are other things I don't agree with him with. So and we used to, in the atheist camp, have a respect for the variances of opinion, but I don't think that exists anymore. We're becoming as polarized in the United States as a see, Grumpy Librarian's going to call you out, Michael. He's going to call you out. But let's get back to Braxton. Let's see what his fifth question is. I've beat that dead horse enough, so let's go to this one.
This last question, there's a little bit of setup. Here's a quote from Robin Collins about the fine-tuning of the universe, and I'd like to know what your reaction to it is. Suppose we went on a mission to Mars and found a domed structure in which everything was set up just right for life to exist. The temperature, for example, was set to around 70 degrees Fahrenheit and the humidity was at 50%. Moreover, there was an oxygen recycling system, an energy gathering system, and a whole system for the production of food. Put simply, the domed structure appeared to be a fully functioning biosphere. What conclusion would we draw from finding this structure? Would we draw the conclusion that it just happened to form by chance? Certainly not. Instead, we would unanimously conclude that it was designed by some intelligent being. Why would we draw this conclusion? Because an intelligent designer appears to be the only plausible explanation for the existence of the structure. That is the only alternative explanation we can think of, that the structure was formed by some natural process, seems extremely unlikely. Of course, it is possible that, for example, through some volcanic eruption, various metals and other compounds could have formed and then separated out in just the right way to produce the biosphere. But such a scenario strikes us as extraordinarily unlikely, thus making this alternative explanation unbelievable. The universe is analogous to such a biosphere, according to recent findings in physics. Almost everything about the basic structure of the universe, for example, the fundamental laws and parameters of physics and the initial distribution of matter and energy, is balanced on a razor's edge for life to occur.
All right. The setup is long and I'm tired of it already. Okay. First of all, to the whole dome thing. You're missing though, you're talking about fine tuning, but you're automatically running into the watchmaker design argument bullshit. Okay, it's designed because you've seen other human beings design something similar. You compare the design of it to the undesigned nature outside, and then you want to flip nature to being designed. So in your argument, you have nature is designed and nature is undesigned as both the two premises in the same argument, and they're both contradictory. So there's your first problem. Yes, there would be a reasonable assumption that they put it. Now, as to the fine tuning, really, there is a lot of places in the universe. First of all, I'm going to have to say, if this is fine tuned and designed for human beings, God sucks at it. because literally, I was listening to Christopher Hitchens the other day. Christopher Hitchens, one of the Four Horsemen, and this is one part I actually agree with him in, because I certainly don't agree with some of his other stuff. But on this issue, some design, because literally 99.99% rest of the universe we can't even live in. We can't even breathe in. You're sitting here talking about the intricacies of this and how fragile it is. Yeah, because compared to the rest of the universe, we would last 3 seconds. Okay, so it's like, it's not analogous to what you're saying. I mean, Grumpy Ribarian hit it. It's not analogous to what the universe is. Okay, the universe is completely hostile to human life. Okay, except on our little ball. And here on planet Earth, supposedly designed planet Earth, there are places on planet Earth that if you were suddenly thrust there, you might last a couple of minutes if you didn't have the proper equipment, didn't have the proper clothing. If you were suddenly transformed to the bottom of the ocean in its lowest point, you would be dead in seconds. There's literally very little on planet Earth that sustains human life. It's almost like human life evolved to fit in the little bit of space that it was allowed by the planet. Okay, the reason the fine-tuning argument and the watchmaker argument don't work is your assumptions. You make a shit ton of assumptions on this already, and I haven't even got to your question. I don't accept your setup because your setup is nonsense. Okay, yeah, it's the Marianas Trench. That's what it is. I'm trying to remember it. See, Martin catches me in this shit where he knows I'm trying to think of something, and I can't think of what it is. Yes, the universe doesn't really like life. If it's fine-tuned for human life, it's fine-tuned for existence. And the whole fine-tuning argument is based on an assumption. Fine-tuned for who and what? Okay, the assumption is fine-tuned for us. And it's like, have you been on the planet Mercury lately? Have you been out to Jupiter and landed on one of the moons? I mean, yeah, I don't know. I don't I don't get this. Okay, how is it now? Because now I am so fascinated how presuppositionalism has allowed these people to keep presenting these arguments that have been reasonably debunked by reasonable people many, many times. Welcome, Lieutenant Jedi. Appreciate you. Okay, but yeah, it's like you're giving me the watchmaker argument and the fine-tuning argument in one package, and I understand why you're doing that as an apologist. But I'm also going to tell you that I don't understand how you think it works, and I haven't even got to your question yet. Okay, I haven't even got to your question yet because your setup is complete bullshit. Okay, I just don't accept your setup. So.
As the eminent Princeton physicist Freeman Dyson notes, quote, "There are many lucky accidents in physics. Without such accidents, water could not exist as liquid, chains of carbon atoms could not form complex organic molecules, and hydrogen atoms could not form breakable bridges between molecules."
In short, you've learned how to use the probabilistic argument and reason backwards when you should reason the other direction. And I don't really give a damn what Dyson said either. Okay. I think his use of the word accident is probably an unfortunate thing, but it's like, no, that's not the way it works. Okay. The probabilistic argument, the bullshit here is just really bad because once again, when you have a population of creatures, taking an evolutionary example, it's 1,000,001 chance that this trait would develop. Yeah, there's 2 million individuals in this population, so 2 times it happened. Okay, yeah, it's I don't know. It's dude. This has been debunked so many times, and what it proves to me, Braxton, at this point, if you ever watch this, is you just obviously haven't listened to a bunch of atheists. You still have your straw man, what you think atheists believe and what this is. But once again, The issue is, does a God exist or not? What is the evidence for his existence? Now, I know you're trying to present this, but I reject this evidence because it requires your opinion and your framing to make it so. You're framing the argument in such a way that nobody can argue against it because you're not going to accept that. Well, I reject all that. Okay. I'm sorry. I don't think if it's fine tuned, it ain't fine tuned for human life, because there are some places on planet Earth that if you go to, you'll be dead. Okay. So it's like that. Yeah. It's like, I don't know. Yeah. I think the puddle argument applies here. It's like, yeah, but if you look at it the other way, maybe we've just evolved into what we need to be, and the odds are 1-to-1 that this is what would have happened. I don't know. If you go from the other direction of probability, that's probably what happened. So, oh, yay. Let's see where he goes.
Short, life as we know it would be impossible. Now, he goes on to say the following. A few examples from the literature of this fine-tuning are listed below. 1, if the initial explosion of the Big Bang had differed in strength by as little as 1 part in 10 to the 60th, the universe would have either quickly collapsed back on itself or expanded too quickly for stars to form.
Actually, I don't know if we actually know that. The universe under different parameters might be different, and life might be very different, but we don't know for sure that it wouldn't exist. Okay. I know, Grumpy Librarian, this whole flipping area is a quote mine. Okay. This whole part of the question is just, is a quote mine. Well, let's live with it and see if we actually gets to a question.
Either case, life would be impossible. As John Jefferson Davis points out, an accuracy of 1 part in 10 to the 60th can be compared to firing a bullet at a 1-inch target on the other side of the observable universe, 20 billion light years away, and hitting the target. 2, calculations indicate that if the strong nuclear...
And if you shot enough bullets in all directions, you would eventually hit that target. Okay. They act like it's one bullet that gets shot with all this stuff, and it's not. It's multiple.
Force, the force that binds protons and neutrons together in an atom, had been stronger or weaker by as little as 5%, life would be impossible. 3, calculations by Brandon Carter show that if gravity had been stronger or weaker by 1 part in 10 to the 40th, then life-sustaining stars like the sun could not exist. This would most likely make life impossible. 4, if the neutron were not about 1.001 times the mass of the proton, all protons would have decayed into neutrons, or all neutrons would have decayed into protons, and thus life would not be possible. 5, if the electromagnetic force were slightly stronger or weaker, life would be impossible for a variety of different reasons. Now, these are some of the kinds of facts.
Okay, first of all, those are not facts. Okay. Also, every one of those quotes seems to be from an individual. It doesn't seem to be a scientific consensus. Okay, this is a bunch of individuals saying a bunch of random stuff, and you openly admit that it is from people that believe in like intelligent design. Here's the thing. You're reasoning the wrong direction because you have your God belief, okay? Because you make the assumption that probability happens a certain direction. But you have to go back to the beginning of the universe where the probabilities start and work the other way around. It's one of the things I had to learn from being a theist and doing apologetics, to realize that my assumption about probabilities and the probabilistic argument was completely wrong and just an assumption. It just doesn't, yeah, that's the problem. We have one sample size of the universe. There could have been many others with different parameters. And that's the way science actually is going these days, is an understanding of the universe could be different, but it doesn't mean that it couldn't exist with different parameters. It just happens to have these parameters. Okay. And that's the way it is. I would say this is true too. Certainly arguments against the biblical view. No, I don't see that at all. Okay. That's built on a lot of assumptions. Okay. If he's not all those things, well, then are you admitting there are other gods? I mean, literally. Yeah. I mean, this is the big question that all of us atheists are going to ask you. How do you know that? Okay. I know that. Yeah. I mean, it goes, why would God care about so few people? I mean, yes, protons have never been observed to decay. And so even the assumption that protons decay or just those are all assumptions that his presentation has made. Now he's done a whole long presentation. Has anybody heard a question yet? Because I haven't heard a question yet. Okay, he's doing a big setup. So let's see what we have.
That are often used to make fine-tuning arguments. Some of the best arguments for God's existence, according to almost everyone involved. So here's the question. Are we wrong to think that this supports theism?
Yes, you're wrong. Okay, because you're building it all on the assumptions of creation in the first place. You're assuming a creator without proving a creator first. Okay. Also, every one of these arguments is crap. Okay, they all have lots of assumptions. The watchmaker argument assumes the natural world has to take two roles. Okay, it has to take, the role of being nature, so you can compare it to the designed watch, and then all of a sudden you want to make nature designed. So which is it? That's the biggest logical flaw in that argument. The fine-tuning argument. How do you know for sure that other parameters wouldn't lead to a different universe and different life? You don't know that. Okay. And the proper answer is I don't know, but you guys want to throw the assumption of God in there. Okay. And looking at all the other arguments, the fine-tuning argument is like really bad to me because it's assuming that it's fine-tuned for humans. If it's fine-tuned for humans, then boy, are we shit, because there's lots of places on our own planet that we can't live for very long, or if at all. I mean, try being underwater for several hours without a suit. Come on, it's like there's so many places and so many ways to die on planet Earth, and the farther you get away from Earth, the worse it gets. Okay, based on the KJV is a Bible, and the Bible. I'm not trying to be rude, but the Pentateuch is demonstrably false, okay, as well as the book of Joshua. So yeah, the Bible is a claim; it's not evidence. The fine-tuning is compared to the probability that the universe did happen, and given that God defined He's capable of making the universe, it could. Yeah, sure, it could. I don't know. I don't know. I don't get it, because you're wrong. Okay, you're wrong to make those arguments because they're crap. The problem is you don't want them to be crap. I'm going to get real with Braxton and his ilk, because I used to be this way. I had an emotional attachment to my religion. I had a lot of emotional reasons to believe it. I had a lot of other things to believe it, even though up here rationally making sense of it didn't work. Okay, and the fine-tuning argument is a good example of wanting something to be true without actually verifying that it is. And quote mining doesn't work, dude. You literally, this whole thing, you quote mined a whole bunch of people that said X, Y, and Z. I don't care. They could have been wrong. Do you have the demonstrable, provable evidence, the repeatable evidence that science demands? No, not even with a fine-tuning argument. You don't have that. Yes, you are unreasonable to still believe this because you're doing it out of emotion. People stay in faith because of emotion. Okay. I left the faith. I had a lot of emotional reasons to stay. And I have a lot of emotional reasons that keep pulling me back, by the way. And if I switched my channel and became the Rabyd Theist and started to spout this nonsense, I would become suddenly more popular and make more money than I could ever dream. But why don't I do that? Because I have intellectual integrity, and my reason wouldn't allow me to stay on that emotional needs-based life. I just don't do it. So no, you haven't. You've missed nothing. So yeah, you missed nothing. You miss nothing. Thank you so much, Native Atheists. I appreciate that. Absolutely, thank you for that. I'm continuing the fight despite Braxton claiming in one of his questions that, we're all changing our tune and backing off and whatever. It's like, now a few people have left for very good reasons, and they're being replaced by other people, probably 2-1 too. So for me, I don't think there is a good reason to go back. I mean, if I'm living in my logical, rational mind, looking at evidence, looking at historical proof, looking at the proofs for things, there is no good rational reason to go back. Okay, there would be, and that's the problem. I just don't have a rational reason to go back. But trust me, the emotional heartstrings from my family, from former congregants, people I used to pastor, the fact that it would grease the wheels of a lot of things for me would absolutely be beneficial to me. So there's a lot of emotional stuff. But when I have to be intellectually honest and have to think about shit, I don't have a good reason to go back. And it's like, no, I don't see it. I just don't see it. So I've read Proverbs so many times, I've lost count. There are some good stuff in Proverbs that is just true, and it's probably borrowed from 100 different sources. Okay. But at the same time, there's no proof of anything in it. Okay. Okay. It's actually multiple people's opinions. Okay. And it can't be proven that it was even written by Solomon. Okay. It's a collection of wisdom. So yeah, me too. Yeah, I can't stop thinking. I can't stop questioning. And the Bible doesn't prove the Bible. For those of you that keep trying, the Bible is the claim. You got to give me proof for your claim. But all right, let's see if he's got anything else.
If so, why? In 2020,
I gave all my reasons there of why. Dude, your fine-tuning argument sucks. The watchmaker argument sucks. It's bad reasoning. Okay. So yeah, it's one of those things that I just don't see anymore. Okay. When I look at the Bible now and I read the Bible now, it's like one claim after another, and Proverbs is a good example of something claiming to be wisdom. Okay. And it's like, some of it's okay, but some of it's like you'd see in any culture or you'd see in any place. And it's almost like God borrows, God borrows. The writers borrowed a whole bunch of things from other things, because as Left-Handed Jedi will tell us, much of Genesis comes from Sumerian myths, and he is absolutely correct. That was one of the stunning things that when I read like the Epic of Gilgamesh, I'm like, damn, that sounds like Genesis. It's like the more I read these other writings that were pre-Bible and around where the Bible was, it's almost like they borrowed, like the flood mythology is in other myths, but Genesis is written after them. So you could reasonably assume that they just borrowed it. This is the stuff. When you start to look at the stuff from an evidential quality, and kind of postscript everything that Braxton said tonight, it's like, dude, you still haven't learned a damn thing about atheists. Okay, I mean, I would say with this, it's like, dude, you haven't learned a damn thing. Okay, from your other 10 questions, we gave you answers. Probably not, because there's very, very noticeable differences, but the idea of an ancient flood story in that area is highly likely. Okay, so given that you have the Euphrates and Tigris rivers that used to flood on a regular basis, yeah. So, but the dates are very clear that like the Gilgamesh epic predates Genesis, and there's enough similarities there where it's like, yeah, they just straight up copied it. Okay, there was a common mythological belief at the time about stuff. And Genesis falls right into that. Okay, it falls right into that. And I want to thank Lieutenant Jenna, the 5 gifted memberships. Let's see, yeah. Jason Henderson, Al Trucker, Summertime 87, Apostate Sisters, and Manuel. I never can get these names. My kids in school used to. Manuel Puente. Yeah, all right. Yeah. Thank you very much, Lieutenant Jet. I appreciate that. This channel, in large part, lives based on memberships. So, though I appreciate that. Yeah, I always found that very interesting part of the mythology where we have rivers but no rain. I mean, I get that it comes from springs. Yeah, steam from the ground wouldn't do that. There's a lot of stuff that are there, but as there, you could go to Myth Vision. He does a lot of videos along that lines of showing how the myths of ancient cultures very much mirror each other. And the only problem with the Bible is it became popular. Okay. It's like, yeah, he is long-winded, and you have to kind of be interested in that sort of thing. I've often thought of, just watching one of his videos and doing the Reader's Digest version of it myself. But, it's like, it's one of those things that he does. He does a really, I'm not getting after his work. It's really good work, and he does a really damn good job with it. But the problem is it is long. But when I was in Bible college and when I was in seminary, we dealt with some of this stuff because I took Pentateuch and then I took Old Testament, Introduction to the Old Testament in seminary. And at that point, it's like, okay, so it's pretty clear that the Pentateuch is an edited work. It's pretty clear that they borrowed from a crap ton of mythology from the place they were captive. It's no surprise they used like the Epic of Gilgamesh, because that would have been very much a part of the Babylonian and Persian cultures. So, so there's that aspect of it. And so the more I got into that, and when I got to seminary, I was under a professor, Dr. Oswald was still there in the 90s when I was him, and he was a big famous Old Testament scholar, and he was basically saying, all this stuff. So, so there's that aspect of it. So, Earl. Thank you. Katrina Todd, Jesse Papa Bear, KCA Randy, Hayward John Looney, and Reverend Don all get gifted memberships to the Rabyd Atheist. Thank you very much, Earl. I appreciate you. It's just been I'm stunned with some of the real genuine support of this channel that I get. And, looking back at 5 years, surprise. Okay. I got to do this. If you're wondering what this one is, this is a picture from my very first video. It's my very first video, actually.
Rabyd Atheist.
My audio is shit. This is like 2 computers ago, so my laptop camera is really bad. The resolution's really bad, but this is the very, very first Rabyd Atheist video where, and it's only 5 minutes long. I thought it'd be worth a laugh at certain points, but this is kind of where this is how this all got started. You're looking at the background. It's my old apartment that I was still living with my now ex-wife. I had an old laptop, and I was knee deep in the clergy project at the time, trying to find a voice for my work. And this is the video that came out. This video is literally the one that started it all. So I'll play it. I may embarrass myself, but I wouldn't do a video like this now, but here it is.
Hello there. I'm the Rabyd Atheist at Rabyd.
This is my channel. I'm still fairly new at this, so if there's anything that bugs you, annoys you, or otherwise just makes you irritated about this video, please let me know. My technical expertise when it comes to doing videos is very, very low, but
Very true at the
there is
time.
an issue and some other issues related to it that compel me to get on the internet and have a voice where I can tell people some of my story, some parts of why I think that faith in any religion is a colossal waste of time. And the reason I can say that is because I have been a minister for 20 years. I was a devout Christian for 40 years. Looking back at it, I can now say that what I would rather have done is a lot of other things besides being a minister and besides being the Christian. So
That's good to know.
this channel is about how I became an atheist, why I'm an atheist, and then to continue to pose the theological objections to any kind of faith. I now am a very compassionate anti-theist, and the reason I say compassionate is I was in it for a long time, so I absolutely understand what it's like to be in the middle of that and have a hard time giving up your faith. But I am also an anti.
Yeah, Earl, I can definitely see that too. I was so raw and new at this at the time, and I was scared spitless to go on the internet and do videos, and I had never done it before. So you're definitely right about that. The confidence level has definitely grown. So
Atheist because, quite frankly, I think the imaginary characters of the gods and God and the Christian God, the Muslim God, the Jewish God, the Hindu gods, and whatever the Buddhists worship or go to, when you look at it all, it really comes down to the fact that wishful thinking and a desire to outlive this life, which I think puts you in a bad frame of mind to really live your life. And so I'm creating this channel with the hopes of doing a couple of things. Number one, if there is anybody out there who's a young person, who's a Christian, who's thinking about entering into the professional ministry full time because they think that that's a great career, I'm doing this video series for you. I want to save you a colossal amount of time, and I want to inspire you, maybe perhaps, to take a different route. The second thing I'm going to do is chronicle my own journey from being a theist to being an atheist. The specifics of how I'm going to do this, I'm still working on, but I am going to start off with the four main reasons why I am no longer a theist. And I'm going to lay those out probably in a series of 5 or 6 videos where the four central ones will be the center of it. But it is these four theological reasons, after being a theologian for many years, a kind of amateur apologist for the faith, and having degrees in both biblical studies and theology, and a more recent degree in political science, I kind of begin to understand why people do faith. And I don't think faith is so much about a belief in reality as it is about feeling like you have power over your circumstances. And in truth, if you really want to have power over your circumstances, what you need to do is give up your faith and start taking responsibility for yourself and what you're doing with your own life. Well, I'm going to call it good for this one. If you like this video, please like it. If you want to subscribe, you can certainly do that. But this is just an introduction to who I am a little bit. I'll get more into that in detail later as I chronicle my journey. I'll start at the beginning and move through the end. But I trust that all of you can at least hear me out and perhaps, just perhaps, I can convince you to be a rabid atheist. But yeah, that was a nice journey down memory lane for me. That video still remains on my channel. These are the only comments I've ever gotten on that video. I want to give Jenna, though, she's on the bottom of this list. She's been a long time supporter of this channel. And, and she's like, she was very, very encouraging at the time. Like, I've done 3 videos and they all suck. So I absolutely understand. So I was really back then having a real hard time. Thank you. With video anything. If you'll notice, there's no jump cuts in that because back then I did everything in one take. Like I would write down everything, put it up there, get it going. And but you know, from then to now, there's been a massive, I think, improvement in how I do my videos and do things. And now I've added live streaming and it's like, yeah, I did put a bright window in the background because of lighting issues. And the beauty of that room is all white. And so it all, the light through the window would reflect on my face off the wall. That's probably the only thing I miss from my former life is that particular office room, because I actually had an office for all this. Now I'm kind of in my corner of my living room, but so I have to deal with the lighting outside a lot. So, but yeah, it was, yeah, thank you. It's just been, I have to say, it's been a wild 5 years, and I haven't always been as productive as I'd like, but this last year has just been great. I'm trying to remind myself of that. I think I have a plan for the future that's going to really work. And I really do appreciate all of you. This is the other thing I'm trying to develop. And I know everybody's giving Drinkwater a hard time, but I will absolutely welcome a theist here who's interested in listening as well as talking. Most of the time people get banned. And I've had to learn this because back then I just accepted any comment because I wasn't getting very many. Okay, so it was just kind of one of those things. And so now I look back at it and it's kind of funny, but I did notice when watching that video, the main objective of this channel has remained the same, which is to present atheism in its truer light, in a more positive light, to get rid of the negativity associated with the term, to help people. I've kind of added over time with my own deconversion story, I've added the idea of helping people with their deconversions. So it's one of those things that yeah, I'm sure that had a lot to do with it, Fred. But it's one of those things that I've absolutely started to branch and grow. It's grown like a lot of other things, but it's been a wild 5 years. It's had its ups and downs. I'm ready to move forward. I'm ready to continue to do what I do. But I just want to say thank you to everybody who has supported this channel over the 5 years. I wanted to give a shout out to Jenna. She was one of my first subscribers. And that's why I put up that comment, because she was there at the beginning and she still hangs out. She doesn't appear in chat as much because she got frustrated with YouTube, which I completely understand. So there's that. Hey, Randy, good to see you. Yeah, there you go. See, I think that's what happened to me. My passion for getting rid of the nonsense of religion has kind of kicked in. My desire to help people deconvert, my desire to create a conversational space. It's one of those things. It's one of those things. So it's that. Well, hey, Dave, appreciate you. Definitely going to watch that live stream you guys started earlier. That was going to be a good one. Yeah, you know, Michael, I'm like a quarter Bavarian, so right from Bavaria. So
It's where my father's mother comes from. Is that line? It's right out of Bavaria. So got a little bit of that too. Yeah, I try to earn your support, guys. I don't automatically wake up and saying everybody should follow me and everybody should do stuff for me. Me too, Earl. I thanked you for inviting me the other day, but it's like the only invite I've gotten all year. Okay, so it's one of the things, like I was talking earlier when we were dealing with Braxton. I think one of the things this channel does do is offer an alternative to the social justice warrior mentality and dealing with issues. I'm more interested in having conversations with people. And when you come in and, theists get mad at me because we block them, but it's like you're coming in and you're preaching, you're not talking. Okay. You're not asking questions. You're not doing a back and forth. You're not the last live stream I did, the guy was probably confused why they got banned, but it's like I would ask a question of them and they wouldn't answer. And then they just follow up with another question that was completely unrelated. And it's a typical proselytizing technique to not answer questions, but keep them going on your script. And I think a lot of people, I'm trying to be friends with people. I really am. Even theists. I used to have, a couple of years ago, I had a guy on here that was a theist, and he was very good. And then he just kind of disappeared because he could never corner me. I guess probably I always had an answer, I guess. So, oh yeah. Oh, thank you, Randy. No pressure. That's another thing I've maintained throughout this channel. Support me if you can afford it. I would absolutely feel guilt-ridden as a former pastor if you were giving till it hurt. Give out of your abundance. Please do not give stuff away that you need. Okay, just don't do that. That would just make me feel awful if I ever were to know that. But it would be nice, wouldn't it? But I keep trying, but I never find any. I'm the uncornable atheist. I suppose that's true. Well, I don't know. I was in the religion theology side of the game for so long. It really gets, I think that some of these theists come here and they get infuriated because I think I made the joke in Earl's birthday stream that, when people come at me with the Bible, I come back at them with the Bible. Okay. Because I know it so well. Yeah, see, this is what I'm looking for. They were in the chat and everybody behaved and it was nice. I think what a lot of us atheists really hate is, the accusation we don't have morality or can't have morality is a real character assassination of atheism. And it colors the relationship we could have with theists because they come in and they automatically thinking we're lying. We're eating babies and all this other bullshit throughout the year. And it's my whole mission of this channel is to get rid of all that shit. Okay. It's the disrespect. Yeah, exactly. Oh, yeah, pretty good looking goblin if you are. So it's the disrespect. Yeah, it really is the disrespect. It's like, yeah, I mean, and see, the thing is, I've had discussions with deists too. I think it's religion light. It's the rudeness. It's the disrespect. It's coming in and preaching. You can see it like Missing Maud. She gets to stick around because she's actually asking questions and interacting, and if I ask her a question, she tries to answer it. Okay. It's like, and several others have had that too. Like, Drink Water, same thing. It really is the rudeness that we can't stand. And that rudeness is stemmed from a misunderstanding what atheism is. And this channel is dedicated and will continue to be dedicated to pushing back on that, Oh yeah. If I was younger, So, but it's that aspect of it that I continue to push back. So, I don't know. it's been a wild 5 years, and I guess right now I can say I'm looking forward to 5 more. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think that's another issue where they come in and they ask me about, the origin of the universe and evolution. I'm like, I'm not an evolutionist and I'm not an astrophysicist. I am a guy who happened to be a theologian, a biblical studies person once upon a time, and a guy who has a political science degree who can kind of see the politics and religion are kind of mixed together. So I'm not an expert on everything, but my reasons for being an atheist don't have to have all the other reasons. It's just you don't have evidence for your God. And that's what really bothers them. It's like trying to get them to present evidence for God. And then when you show them that their evidence isn't all that great, they get upset. And it's like, it's not personal, dude. It's like, please. Yeah, me too. Yeah, you have to live in. Yeah, I don't think that's the case, Randy. I think you just kind of looked at it and yeah, this is bullshit. Yeah, it's why I'm a compassionate anti-theist. It will remain so. It's amazing that in that first video, that's where the phrase was born for me. As I just said it, I'm a compassionate anti-theist. And that has stuck through the 5 years of the channel. I think every intro I've had or introductory remarks has had that in it. I'm pretty sure. And it's because it's really my mode. I'm not here to browbeat theists. I understand what it's like to be them. I understand what it's like, Fred, to be your big sister. Okay. As far as belief system. Okay. It's like, I get it. But it's like my evidence level, as Martin points out, my evidence level is different than a religious person's evidence level. It's much higher. And that's because I'm not going to base my life on everything anymore in that regard. So I can't do it without evidence anymore. So it's definitely one of those things that I've noticed a very discrepancy in doing this channel over 5 years. What my standard of evidence is, well, what would I get it all the time. What would your standard of evidence be? I don't know. Something you could take to court would be nice. So, something that's testable and repeatable, like in science, like I could pick up the experiment, transport it to another group of scientists in the same field halfway across the world. They can do the experiment and get the same results. How about that? How about some historical, verification of events? Yeah. So that, yes. Oh, yep. All the stuff. Yeah, we do get that from time to time. Yeah. See, now, Grumpy Librarian, he might, going into library science, that's hanging out in a library all day. I don't know, that might be my dream job. Maybe. I don't know. Think about it. Yes, chemistry debates try to do it all with a smile on our faces. Yes. Yeah. As Martin points out too, you don't change people; they change themselves. Okay. No discussion I ever had with an atheist did I ever change my mind in the middle of that discussion when I was still a theist. It was later on when I was thinking about it and honestly exploring my thoughts and opinions about it. That's what changed me. That's what. So it's that aspect of it that we need to realize that. That's why I'm a compassionate anti-theist, because I know I'm not going to change these people's minds. But something I may say may allow them to change their own mind. Yeah. Some people need the noise. I need the quiet, Earl. I really genuinely need quiet. I appreciate that more for some reason. Maybe it's because I was an only child and I didn't have kids running around all my life. Until I had children of my own, I didn't really have that. So,
Well, folks, I am going to call it a night because I have other things to do with my life. I love all of you. Thank you to everybody who gifted memberships. Thank you for the donations. Thank you for all of you members who continue to support this channel. On your way out, if you'd hit the like button, if you haven't subscribed, I would really appreciate that. But it's been a great 5 years. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. I can't thank you guys enough. This channel success is mostly due to you. I just produce the content, and you're the ones that have to like it. So thank you very much. Appreciate all of you. As always, live your best life. You only get one go around, and then it's over. And at that point, it'll be all over. So give all your time, money, and energy to yourself, to the people you love and care for, and to make this a better world. Be happy if you do. Trust me, I speak from experience. And as always, guys, thanks for stopping by, and I will catch you next time.